Every Way Woman presents a long and happy life after breast cancer. Welcome to Every Way Woman. Joining us today is Dr. Lisa Curcio from BreastLink. Not only is she a doctor, but she is also a breast cancer survivor. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hey.
Tell us about your journey.
Well, I was actually diagnosed at age 37. That was just 2 years after I had finished all of my training. I did 6 years of general surgery and then another 3 years of fellowship in cancer surgery. And after I finished my fellowship, I got married. And then we moved to Biloxi, Mississippi because I had a military obligation. They paid for medical school for me. So right after we got married, we loaded up our car and took our dogs with us and moved to Biloxi, Mississippi, where we were halfway across the country from both sets of family. My family was on the East Coast. My husband's family was on the West Coast. And we were there about 2 years, and I was fulfilling my 4-year military obligation. And I had my first child. It took us a little while because I was a little bit older.
Right.
And
so how did you find out that you had breast cancer?
So I was breastfeeding, which, by the way, I thought was harder than medical school itself. I thought
it is quite a task.
I thought it was one of the most challenging things I did physically. But my son was a little older. He was like 8 months, 9 months, and I was still pumping. You know, I was back to work, obviously, but I was pumping and trying to, you know, get him as much breast milk as I could. And one night I was pumping, and, you know, I was half asleep, getting ready, did a long day, and I picked up the bottle that I had just pumped and saw blood in it.
Oh, wow.
So that was very frightening. And, you know, there's lots of ways, even knowing what I know, that you can rationalize it. And I did have a lot of problems early on, breastfeeding with chafing and a little bit of bleeding back then. So I just thought, well, maybe it's just part of that. So I actually stopped breastfeeding on that side for 2 weeks and just nursed and pumped on the other side.
When you initially saw that blood, did you immediately examine your own breast? Because, I mean, you knew about it. Okay.
Yeah, I did, and I couldn't feel anything.
Okay.
I had a little bit of a lymph node on that side that had been kind of on and off swollen, and actually had seen someone, and they really thought it wasn't anything.
So you went to a doctor who told you, it's nothing.
Correct.
And you are the doctor.
Correct.
Wow.
What went through your head, though? I mean, knowing you're a doctor and you do this for a living, and you get that, you know, you have breast cancer.
To be 100% honest, initially I denied it. I thought this is just because my nipples are chafed, and I just said it's going to get better, so I stopped. And it did get better for about 2 weeks. And then on the 3rd week, I took off my bra, and there was blood there.
Wow. I didn't even know blood was one of the symptoms. I mean,
it can be if the tumor is close to the nipple, right behind the nipple.
So, Dr. Curcio, you had blood in a bottle. 2 weeks later, you still had blood, and you were still in denial that something was wrong.
Well, at that point, I clearly knew that, and so I ordered my own mammogram.
Okay.
And walked down to my radiology department, which I had been working with all of these techs for the past 2 years, and got my mammogram. And as I came out, I saw the techs kind of gathered around my mammogram, which I thought was a very bad sign. And she said, "Do you have deodorant on?" And I said, "No, I don't think I put deodorant on." And she goes, "Did you wipe it off?" And I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Wipe it off again." So she has me go.
So at that point, you knew. What happened from that point on? What was your treatment like?
Well, I had a biopsy that day, and actually after I had the biopsy, of course, I work with radiologists. I walked my tissues down to the lab, to pathology
She
lab.
walked her tissues down to lab. She ain't waiting for nobody.
Right. You really got involved with
it.
I was going to ask her, what is it like, you know, the transition from being the
from
doctor
denial.
to the patient, but you were very instrumental in your own treatment. How did you advocate for yourself?
Well, I actually was sitting in the pathologist's office every day for the next 2 days.
Okay.
And my pathologist was afraid to death to call it. I mean, we were looking under the microscope. It was clear that it was cancer. But he's like, I can't call cancer in my breast surgeon. And I says, "You got to. I got to get a diagnosis."
All that you do, were you prepared for that moment? Were you prepared? You were not prepared for that moment.
I think you're never prepared for that moment.
And I had a 9-month-old child. When I saw that mammogram, it wasn't about my breast. It wasn't about me. It was about seeing my son graduate from high school, get married, and have children. That's all I wanted.
Doctor, can I ask you, what do you want the viewers to know about breast cancer?
Well, I think, that you are not alone, that you have a support system, and when you actually work with good physicians, you have a great team around you. But the bottom line is that was 14 years ago.
Wow.
That breast cancer is very curable, and it's never a death sentence.
I love that. It's never a death sentence.
Dr. Curcio, now that you are a survivor of breast cancer and you're still practicing, how has your journey affected how you treat your patients now?
Well, I think it allows me the perspective to say to them, I know what you're going through. I've been through the stereotactic biopsy. I've been through breast cancer surgery and the reconstruction associated with it. I've walked that path of thinking, the worst, and then living, the ultimate survival from the breast cancer. So I think it gives me that perspective that I think patients really they appreciate someone that has gone through the process.
Absolutely.
But also it allows me to think about things in terms of what can we do to make our lives better so that we don't get cancer back. And that's why I'm so passionate about prevention and nutrition and exercise. So it really kind of makes me want to work with my patients to make their life better on the other side of cancer.
Dr. Curcio, you have an amazing story. Thank you so much for joining us today. For more information, or if you'd like to follow, or you'd like to know about Dr. Curcio's amazing journey, you can find her on breastlink.com. More Every Way Woman when we return. Stay tuned.
Are you an every way woman?